Cincinnati at the Chargers. Home team laying 2.5 are the Chargers. 45 is the total on this one. I suspect that the public loot on the Bengals will be one of the most popular bets of the week. I think after the Thursday night performance and the need for the Bengals to get this one, except for I joke about the Patriots being in the playoff mix, but I don't know how much of a joke it is. Pretty it's getting pretty close to concrete that obviously the Chiefs, Bills, the Steelers, and Ravens are going to get in. The Texans are going to get in. The Chargers are tracking to at 6-3. But then after that, the Broncos, the Colts, their Colts are in a weird spot too with Joe Flacco, who is obviously not the answer for them, and yet they don't want to go back to the kid. That's a weird spot there. And they're the Bengals with their 4 wins. I think the cut line is probably at the Jets. Do we agree with that? That the Jets and every 3-win team below is finished now, or are we still allowing for Aaron Rodgers to do
Well,
something?
I think Spaghetti said it really well last week. It's like if you come down to the wire and it's like it feels like you're in the mix, but you lost to the Patriots when the Patriots really weren't trying, and the Broncos. It's like, obviously the Jets head to head with the Broncos will lose. So I don't think. I mean, it's so hysterical that they gave him everything, and they're 3-7.
I mean, I really do. And now Boomer Esiason, who obviously has some ties into the Jets, he's been on Rodgers all through the season, but not on Rodgers' side, has been an adversary to some degree. But he's saying, oh, the locker room is lost and everything else. It does not seem great for Joe Douglas and on down in that organization. If there isn't a massive turnaround, even if there is it going to be enough to get in the playoffs? And if it isn't, they're going to probably purge the staff, and I don't know what it'll mean for
But I'll tell
Aaron
you this: when
Rodgers.
you're looking for the team that's going to fill that last slot, they're the team that's going to beat the Chargers this week. How say you?
I am going to go here. Thank you for redirecting me to the matter at hand here. I like the Chargers. I had them slotted as one of my wild card teams when we made our preseason picks. I stand by that, of course. I don't know how this one doesn't go up and over the 45. I have the Bengals winning it 34-28. How say you, Hench?
Very, very close in your garage there. Bengals 30, Chargers 20. These are, the Bengals, the Burrow and Chase's numbers in the 2 losses to the Ravens are bonkers. Like, you basically can't lose those games. Like, no one's ever, like, did you see all those stats going around? Like, no one's ever done this. And so they could easily have won both Ravens games. The Chargers have been beaten up on the weak sisters. And then, but now we're moving up in class. And I think, the Chargers are going to get whipped, going to be a little bit of a reality check. And if these two teams play each other in the playoffs, I also, well, neither of these teams can win their division, but like the Bengals are good. The Bengals are good. They're still going to go under 10.5. So that bet's going to cash. But I think it's the Bengals that get the last playoff spot, 9-8 or 10-7.
I'm not saying you've sung songs about them, but I think you continue to overrate Cincy's defense. I know that they can rush the passer a little bit, but it's not overall a good defense. The Chargers have consistently in the last 3 games really rushed the passer well. And while the Bengals are not a bottom feeder, they are not great at keeping Burrow clean, as we know. So I think that's a factor too. I really like what the Chargers are doing, but this feels like one, as we talk about, when you talk about 2 pro teams and one is desperate to get it, that tends to be the result, or at least that's the way I'm going to lean here. So I'm going to stick with the Bengals there. Spaghetti, how say you?
Yeah, I'm taking the Bengals too. Kind of what Henry was saying, that it's, I'm not going to say a 6-3 record for the Chargers. When you beat up on the Raiders, the Panthers, the Broncos, the Saints, the Browns, the Titans, like I hate poo-pooing wins. And I hate also elevating losses. I feel like you could have done enough in those games to win them. But it's also very difficult when that, like, that freeze frame of the 2 point conversion in the last TNF game where there could have been three penalty flags in that one, like the face mask on Burrow, the two linemen, obviously both there was two receivers out for the pass, even though the one guy that he did throw to was short of the goal line. He was definitely hugged around like the waist. Another guy was his arm was pulled down. There were like 4 or 5 penalties on that one play, and the referee is doing their job. So I hate calling things like almost wins, but I do feel like the way Burrow played, throwing the ball almost 60 times too, though you want that team to be a little bit more balanced. But I just feel like in this game, and while Justin Herbert's had a fantastic season, kind of under the radar, I just feel like if the Bengals get like one stop, you're not going to keep up with Burrow. If Burrow's playing like that, he's really in there's what 2 or 3 other guys who could possibly do that. So I'm taking the Bengals to win and cover.
I predict that there will be a turnaround nationally if the Chargers do this on the big stage Sunday Night Football. That if the Chargers take care of the Bengals, then there will be more attention paid to what Jim Harbaugh's doing. But I think the pause button was hit nationally about Herbert's turnaround and the Chargers turnaround when Herbert got hurt. They're quietly, like you say, they're playing real well. Now they have to do it on against a good team on the big stage. Let's do the big game of the week. Let's do the Chiefs and the Bills. Right now, the Bills are laying 1. The total is 46. Keon Coleman already announced as out for this one. That's not great against the Chiefs defense. I'm going to say, I know that the Bills are desperate to get this one, and it feels like one of those defining kind of things for the organization when they go up against the Chiefs. They've had obviously more success in regular seasons than they have in postseasons because they're over against the Chiefs, or at least against Patrick Mahomes. I think the Chiefs keep it going here, and I think they salt away, as we talked about in the preseason. I feel like Andy Reid, but even more so, Patrick Mahomes understands the history of the game, and you can delude yourself about like, hey, Road Warriors will win 3 AFC playoff games. I think they learn from that experience, not like, see, we can do this. We can just flip a switch when we need to. I think it's the opposite. I think that they know that that was a real tough road to take. They want the number 1 seed. They know they can lock it up here. I say they do it 23-19. How say you, Hench?
I'm right in the same ballpark score wise, but I think the Bills do their semi-annual regular season victory over the Chiefs that leads to nothing. Bills 21, Chiefs. Bills 24, Chiefs 21. I'm sure I'm wrong because I've never been right on the Chiefs since they arrived on the scene. But I mean, this Bills team, Josh Allen. You look around, you're like, you don't really. No, it doesn't almost matter who he's doing it with when you look at the injury report and you're like, all right, he's just a one-man band, and that band is playing at a much higher level than KC's MVP.
Spaghetti, how say you?
Yeah, and looking at that game last week, the Bills-Colts game, Josh Allen throwing the 2 interceptions. You don't love that, the sloppiness going into a big game like this. Luckily, Cook had a nice game on the ground with a touchdown as well, so you feel good about that. I think in this game, I'm done. I'm not even going to give like football analysis with the Chiefs. There has to be there's something to be said about having like lady luck on your side and just being able to go through any kind of scenario and just being fine with it. The Chiefs could have whether it's Taylor Swift up in the box or it's the narrative, oh, Travis Kelce, is he done? Or oh, is Mahomes sleepwalking through this? Oh, like a blocked field goal, like you never see that happen. Like no matter what happens, whatever's thrown at the Chiefs away, they just get it done. And like we've talked about before with the Dallas Cowboys, there's something to be said about the bad morale in certain locker rooms, and you have the good morale plus luck. And if everyone's like vibing on the same page, they're feeling good. They're not coming this game tight. Like we know the Bills definitely are coming this game tight. I think that does account for something. Plus, if you like terms of betting, the Chiefs are getting 2.5 points. If you want to take that, I personally would take the Chiefs on the money line. I think they're going to continue this undefeated streak. I think Allen will have a fine game, but it just seems like it's their kryptonite. And I got to side with the Chiefs still because I have no reason not to when they have luck on their side.
Paralysis by analysis and all that. I think like we sit around and look at the standings and say reasonably the Chiefs aren't going to lose 3 games the rest of the way and all that kind of stuff. I don't think NFL players typically do a lot of that. I don't think the Bills are sitting around and saying like, well, if we lose this game or if we win this one, then we just need the Steelers to beat the Chiefs in weeks. Like, I don't think they think that way. I think they're motivated by high level competition and the idea that this is your rival to get in your way for the Super Bowl. But like I say, so the Bills are awfully motivated by the standings and how close they can get to the Chiefs and all that. But I think the Chiefs get where they are. I think they understand. We win this one now. For all the talk about how we're playing it casually this season, then they can go into that mode because there's no way they can blow it if they just take down Buffalo this week. Over to the other side, I mentioned the Lions barely surviving the Texans. They can't really take their foot off the gas because the Eagles are coming on at 7-2, one game back. They don't have a head-to-head there, but the Lions incented to keep playing well. And winning all their games. This is a wild one. The Jacksonville Jaguars, 2 out of the 3 people on this show had the Jaguars as the best team in the history of the AFC in the or something like that. I don't remember what they said, but they were wrong. They said something about that team going to the playoffs. The third person scoffed and said that's not going to happen. I don't remember who said what. What I will tell you is the Lions laying 13 points. Egad, Doug Peterson. How did it get this bad? The total is 48, and you want something even worse than all that? I'm laying the 13. How say you, Hench?
I would be laying,
that's such a crazy number. You can't bet that, but I'm doing it.
I would be laying 22. I would be like, this is just like my Cowboys Lions bet of several weeks ago when I was like, I said 40-17 and it wasn't high enough. Like they beat him by 40 points. So this is going to be another blowout. I mean, the Lions got their near miss out of the way. I'll go 40-17 again. That's my Lions blowout number. They played so terribly against the Texans. I mean, inexplicable decisions from Goff, threw the ball to the other team 5 times. Montgomery never really got going, and Bates makes the game-winning field goal. You're like, they feel much more like a juggernaut to me than the Chiefs.
Yeah, hard to disagree with that. I mean, again, that was sort of the what people were saying after, but for real, your starting quarterback threw 5 interceptions and you won the game. That's just loco. And this wasn't some bum team you were playing. Obviously, they picked you off 5 times, and that wasn't enough to eliminate you from the game. Wild. Spaghetti.
Yeah, I think I said it 2 weeks ago on the show that, if the season stopped immediately, we halted it, we did the playoff bracket, I would pick the Lions to win the Super Bowl. I still feel that way right now. Who knows come, January, February, but I am with Hench that they do feel like, the juggernaut of juggernauts right now in this NFL season. That being said, 13 points. Like, you're starting the game 13-0. All you need really is like an extra. Let's say if a fumble happens or another Jared Goff interception and you add another touchdown, now you have a 20-point lead and you just feel better about that. So I am going to say, obviously, Lions definitely win this game. But I think 13 points, they'll keep it within that. And I guess the other caveat is somehow if the Jaguars don't cover, because I hate them for picking them to win the AFC South, this could be the game that like they are blowing the Lions out in the first half. And then I could see the Lions storming back and still somehow covering, and the Jaguars just crumble because they have that in their DNA, because clearly this Peterson, Trevor Lawrence thing is not going to work out despite what I like that they did in the offseason. They are one of a bunch of teams in the NFL right now going through absolute hell.
Well, at least for Doug Peterson, glass half full, things are better for him than they are for Jack Del Rio. Hey, you keep chopping wood, fella. Next up, the Packers and the Bears, the 20th century's, I guess I was going to say best rivalry, top 3 rivalry in pro football. Either way, Bears at home, booed off the field, and they deserved it. Bears plus 6.5 against their arch rival. Kind of surprised it's not worse than that. Total is 43. It spooks me that the number is that low, given the way that the Bears are playing. I have to go with rational thought, though, here. I'm taking the Packers 28-20. How say you, Hench? And by the way, that's awfully generous to the Bears, given their offensive performance of late. But they have to shake out of it. They have too many weapons on that offense to just be this putrid, putting up a field goal every week. Sheesh.
I mean, it was like Oprah Winfrey with the Patriots. You get a sack and you get a sack and I mean, that's when I learned that the Patriots special teams expert plays defense. It's like Matthew Slater was a wide receiver, I guess, but like he never actually plays. And then Brendan Schooler comes in for a sack, 9 sacks that O-line let up. Total disarray in Chicago. This is 27-17, 10-point win for the Pack. And maybe then the Bears will Eberflush their quarterback. I mean, their coach.
I have to say quickly, because the last 2 games are relatively big numbers, 2 teams going nowhere and all of that. We're just at the halfway point or just beyond it. And so it's easy to say, well, you should just fire the coach. But no matter what they do, these are professionals. And so as it goes, there will be their agents or family or teammates or otherwise that will get in their ear and say, like, man, if you just lay down, you're putting bad tape out there and you're damning yourself. You're damning your future. So that's got to change. I just can't bet on it. I'm not going to bet on the Bears or the Jags to a man to recognize that this is that the team results are damaging the player's future. They have to individually turn it around, or they're all going to have a stink on them. And they do tend to do that. Teams don't just lay down and get blown out for 8 straight games at the back half of the season. You don't see that very often for a reason. Anyway, Spaghetti, how say you?
I'm with you, Shek, completely. I think this is a weird, fishy line. I am going to take the Packers laying the 6 points. They're going to win this game by a touchdown or more. I mean, I did have the Packers win the NFC North in the offseason. They won't do that. I had Jordan Love in the MVP conversation. He will not win MVP, but I'm still going to wear that. This offense is, their top 10 offense in the NFL. They're pretty balanced too. 3rd in rushing, they're 7th in passing. So you love that. And I think on the other side of things too, talking about Eberflus, I don't get why, especially with Caleb Williams, who we have seen has not been the mentally strongest quarterback. And I'm not trying to crush him. I'm just stating the facts. We did see him cry in the field. Like he does the weird painting the fingernails and sends messages. Like he clearly is affected by a lot of stuff. He wanted equity in a franchise. I think saying that, we're considering like we're answering a question saying that he will start is not good for him. I don't get why Eberflus was the pick with him. They should have had a coach to come in with him, an offensive mind. I think that's a huge gaffe, and they're going to change that in the offseason. So I don't agree with the line. I think this is a really, really bad week for the Bears, even being at home, which is another reason why the line's only 6. I just think right now, again, we're talking about locker room morale, and especially with Caleb Williams, who you don't really trust. He's not a CJ Stroud or a Jordan Love type, mental fortitude is maxed out. I would be a little bit afraid if I was a Bears fan the rest of this way with Caleb Williams. So yeah, Packers, who own them, are going to win this game too.
Just can't stay this bad, though, is my point. Hench, let's say you're running a show, one of your many famous comedies that you have out there. Congratulations on the weigh-ins show and all the rest of it. To you, make sure you're watching it and supporting Kevin Hench with that if you're listening right now. But let's say you're running a room and it's like, yeah, ratings are real bad. I don't know if we're going to get picked up. We're probably not going to get picked up. Like, hey, Warren, did you finish that script yet? Like, nah, what's the difference? Like, nah, I mean, that would be unacceptable, right? Like that, and it's not like it's December 27th. I mean, they have a long way to go here. They can't just all lay down and quit. And the Bears, in fact, happen to have too much talent.
Well, I appreciate the analogy, but the funny thing is that, sports is a strong business. Like show business actually does have the vibe of people like, what are we going to try our hardest? It's so crazy on the executive side too. People are like, what are we doing? What do you want? A bunch of notes? I don't know. What are we? Let's just go to lunch. Come on, let's go. It's crazy. Show business is so crazy right now because, the only thing people watch is sports. But to your point about tape, it's like, yeah, I don't think there's any, you're not going to get your 2025 coach in the middle of the season, obviously. Unless you're going to get Belichick.
Right. So, right.
But I do I guess I don't really, if, part of the reason in New England, we were like, gosh, we really want Brissett to take these lumps for as long as possible before Drake May has to get out there and start dodging bullets. But a lot of it has to do with the development of, the Bears can't they have to still believe that Caleb Williams is the franchise. Like they still have to be all in on that. And so when someone's lost the locker room, obviously those offensive linemen weren't blocking so the coach could keep his job. They weren't. It's like there could be I know Rich Bisaccia or Antonio Pierce, like you have these moments where like the team rallies, and it's like the better question is, what is the point of not firing Eberflus?
Yeah, right.
If the team's this far gone and your franchise is taking a beating, the Patriots do not have a good pass rush. 9 sacks from a team where you can't name their defensive line.
I can't. Yeah, I'm not going to even try. All right, let's move on to the next one here, and a quick review here, Cliff's notes, in case you haven't been paying attention. There's a great rivalry this millennium. Now, on one side, the team is named after the mid-century heroes who forged the material used to construct the ships and the tanks and the artillery used to defeat the Nazi scourge. One side. The other side is named after a New Yorker / Bostonian who late in life he wrote a poem about a bird one time. And then late in life, he moved to Baltimore and he married his cousin, and then he got drunk and he died. That's who that team's named after. You choose. You can choose the bird guy if you want to. You can go against him. Mussolini's on your side, though. I'm going with the Steelers here. The Pittsburgh Steelers at home at the time of this recording, +3.5. Disrespectful. Tricks your eye, though, because when you watch the Steelers play, you think or you watch the Ravens play, you think like, well, how would the Steelers ever hang with that offense? They're not going to be able to slow that offense down. I don't know what voodoo Mike Tomlin is able to work that he can drag all these high power offenses down into the mud and play it the way he wants to. Every final score between these two teams used to be 13-10. It just was a matter of which was on the winning side of things because of inflation. Of course, that number is now up to 20-17. Good luck getting me to pick against the Steelers this week. I'm completely biased on this one, so take it with a grain of salt. I'm riding with an asterisk, nay, a hypercycloid. That's what those 3 things are in the Steelers' hats. Here we go, Steelers. Take down the Ravens and get real close to locking up the AFC North if you do. Hench, how say you? Not locking it up, but you get real far. If you're the Steelers with a win, and if you just go, by the way, if they go 3-3, the rest in the division, that's 10 wins. So they're going to the playoffs at this point, almost certainly. Hench, go ahead.
Oh, you mean like Spaghetti and I predicted they would at the beginning of the season?
I don't call out names of who said
what. You just called out anybody who could pick a Raven over a Steeler, the guy who didn't pick the Steelers at the beginning of the season to make the playoffs. Right. But it's a good thing you won the team name origin battle, because that's all you're going to win this week. The Ravens are going to go into the Steel City and give the Steelers what for. I think they're actually going to put up a big number. We're all wondering why teams are moving the ball against the Steelers defense. That should be great. I think the Ravens get it 31-20.
I hear you, man. It is the ugly underbelly that people are not talking about because of the results the last 3 weeks. The defense has not dominated on the level it needs to for them to make January hay. Spaghetti.
Yeah, so I have not picked against the Steelers once this entire season so far. Obviously,
Sheesh.
me and Hench obviously had them in the playoffs going far. I had them win the division. I'm not even saying this because of recency bias. I just feel like the Steelers, because of their the passing offenses have been terrible, but it's not as strong. Like their bread and butter, obviously, is the ground game. And if you fall behind, you're not going to come back and regain the lead late in the game, especially if you're just ground and pound. This Ravens offense is just what Lamar is doing with 24 touchdowns and what Derrick Henry's doing. It's just. I don't know how to fully stop them. The Steelers would really need turnovers, and that's way easier said than done. They need the Ravens to play sloppy football. I understand they're home. That's some extra juice there. But if the Ravens are getting points, this offense is – I know the defense has a lot of problems, and I've been pro Russ But this is the first week I'm going to have to go against the Steelers here. I just think this is a tough task, and it's not an indictment against the Steelers. They're not going to go on a downturn here. This is a fine team with a great win versus the Commanders and stopping the hot quarterback. But the Ravens offense right now is rolling and it's scary, and I just feel like the firepower of the passing attack in the Steelers, it won't be enough. If it's a shootout, I'm going to take the Ravens.
Well, it's funny you say that because I do think that we always talk about, all the metaphors about back alley fights and all that, or analogies or whatever they are. But with these two teams, but I do think that that's their puncher's chance, the Steelers. You're not going to silence the Ravens from scoring, but the Ravens defense, as we have talked about all since August, as I kept telling you, ain't great. So maybe maybe Russ throws the ball over their head. Maybe they're trailing in the fourth quarter and he plays some catch up like he has.
There's been very few people as pro Russ as me this entire NFL season, nationally I'm talking about, and I like if Joe Burrow with the game he just had couldn't do it. That's just kind of how I feel. Again, maybe it is recency bias, but yeah, I just feel like they're gonna get the Steelers in this one.
The worst Super Bowl in the history of people, underrated as it is, or at least on the short list of worst Super Bowls. Falcons, Broncos. You know what? I love my Super Bowl lore, and I can't even think of what that was. 33 is what that was. Is what that Super Bowl. Broncos are at the time of this recording giving a point and a half. Total is 44. I love my Falcons. That was a tough one to lose against the Saints. They should have won it. Denver competitive, playing for a playoff spot. I hate to do it. I have to take the Broncos here, 21-17. Hench, how say you?
Oh my God, we're in the exact same garage. The Broncos should have won it much more than the Falcons should have won it on Sunday. It's just the Broncos defense. It's really tough. They're really strong, and there's just enough Bo Nix to Cortland Sutton to keep it interesting. And I like the Broncos to win this game by a field goal, 23-20. And the Broncos are going to be in it to week 18.
Oh, you know what? People drop me a line, obviously, all the time about wardrobe-related matters. The Broncos uniforms, I've seen them enough now. I'm not going to turn the corner. They're bad uniforms. I thought, I try to judge them with my eyeballs on a field against another team. And then sometimes as I get older, I get more generous about that spiritually. And so I watch up for a half seat. It's over. Those are not good uniforms. But the orange pants are their best bet. They should go with the orange. But they're not good. They should change them as soon as they possibly could. So should the Falcons. But the big one this week was the Houston Texans, and a lot of people hit me up to say, "Well, those all reds, horrible, worst uniforms ever." I didn't hate them. I didn't think they were terrible. And in fact, my wife came through the room, watch it, and she said, well, "I don't know who that team in red is. Those are snappy looking get-ups. I like the helmets at least." Anyway, Eddie Spaghetti, your pick.
The Falcons' path to victory be score a lot of points here, and I think that's what the Broncos defense, which is a legitimate defense. I might have been, kind of underestimating how I shouldn't say how good this Broncos team is, but they are definitely a feisty. They're not an easy team to play. Obviously, the Chiefs just had struggles.
Audric Estime getting more and more touches.
Just going to say, that with this defense being a top 5 defense, especially scoring wise, you add in the bruising back and Audric Estime to really just slow down opposing defenses and control the clock there, especially that was going to help Bo Nix. He's getting better and better. But he's definitely looked, light years different than he did back in September. So that's a very, big positive for the Broncos team here. I just think they're going to be home, and that's a really big advantage in the altitude. I think their defense is going to slow down the Falcons, passing attack, and I think they're going to eke out a victory here. I'm kind of changing my tune midway through the season on how I feel about the Broncos, and I think this is a start of something positive if you're a fan of the team.
Flacco's Colts, Rodgers Jets, 3 words. Ooh, la and la. 3 points is also what the Jets are giving to the visiting Colts. Total is 44. I mean, the Colts at this point, if I think about, they're such a forgettable bunch that I can gloss over it. But I'm surprised that Steichen hasn't done more with this team. I know that they're, like most football teams, are flawed, but man, that Anthony Richardson is worthy of just saying, sit down for the rest of the season in favor of the 40-year-old man. That's one thing a fortnight ago. Have you seen Joe Flacco play though in these two games that you've replaced him? I mean, they're lost at sea now, so I have to take the Jets here, and I'll take them to actually have a nice game from 12 on down. I'm going to take them 26-20. How say you, Hitch?
Right there. God, that's a weird number that we both have the Jets on 26. I have the Jets 26, Colts 17. Rodgers versus Flacco. What year would this have been? What year did this matchup peak? Like 2011, maybe? Was that like, when was this? Yeah. This was a great, exciting matchup. Like it is an old timers league. And believe it or not,
that was 11, 12 years ago. Yeah, right. When they were in their respective primes.
As the Jets looked in Arizona, they were awful. They're better. They're better than the Colts. And again, I was a little sad though, because one of the most fun things about this Jets season has been the Aaron Rodgers press conferences. That's just been so fun. The depressed, humiliating. And now SportsCenter's like, yeah, you're 3-7. We're not showing your quarterback's press conferences anymore. I'm so depressed.
I'd like to get an update on that old his first press conference was like, hey, that Lombardi, the Namath one's looking pretty lonely over there. And as I said at the time, like, wait, so you're gonna change that, you old man? I mean, like, what evidence is there that you're about to make a Super Bowl run when you haven't been the one since 2010? Sheesh, spaghetti. How say you?
I mean, the Jets are disgusting. Every Jets fan and sports media topic in New York right now is going crazy with them because this is, the highest expectations in a Jets season. I couldn't tell you how long. Same record as like the Patriots, who had like the lowest expectations in the history of that team. Doesn't make any sense. Rodgers not having fun. The team is too talented to be this bad. They just happen to be playing a team that doesn't have that much talent, and they have a quarterback, as old, if not older, than Aaron Rodgers here. So I know I've been high on the Jets. I don't know what's wrong. I mean, I watched a lot. I don't know why I did, but I watched a lot of that game versus the Cardinals. It just seems
that's
like
Hench's team. That's Hench's team you're talking about. That actually, it was Hench's team, and they really caught fire after he dumped them. I don't know what that means. Is that like when after Pete Davidson dumps you, then the woman tends to do even better in life, kind of effect? Hench has dumped the Cardinals, and now they're going to win the division or something.
The good luck, Chuck. I think I kind of underestimated the Cardinals at this point too, and they're kind of semi, not really rebuild but retool. But Rodgers would just seem like he's forcing stuff and doesn't take the easy option. Like, if you're going to compare quarterbacks like all-time greats, like that's what made Tom Brady great, because Tom Brady took the smartest play, the play that made sense, and Rodgers not doing that. It's going to be a really, really bad few years for the Jets upcoming, because Rodgers is owed a lot of money, and this collection of really, really uber talented players is just not meshing. They'll win this game. They're home. I guess the fans are the ticket price to get in is like $20 because the Jet fans just gave up already. I feel awful for them, but the Jets should feel awful too because they curated this mess. So they'll win this game, but who cares?
Who could have seen it coming, though? That's the real
question.
They'll
win this game, but who cares is the exact right analysis.
Oh man, they gave this guy the keys. Like, well, Tom Brady did it when he was old. He just needs better weapons around him. Like, yeah, Tom Brady is dedicated to football to the point that he got divorced from his supermodel wife.
That's commitment.
Aaron Rodgers went to Egypt.
Divorce your wives.
Aaron Rodgers went to Egypt to trip out. I mean, like that they're not the same cat. They're not equally focused on the matter at hand. All right, Steelers and Ravens is undoubtedly the best rivalry of the millennium. Actually, Bills and Chiefs is pretty good, and Ravens Chiefs is pretty good. But I think the NFC's best rivalry going at this point, and maybe it's still Cowboys and Packers, but Seahawks Niners is my point here. The Niners laying 7 to the Seahawks. I refuse to back off the Seahawks as a team that can make some hay if they can just get into the mix. The problem is, go through the standings in the NFC. The 6 spots for the AFC are kind of locked up, but I mean, right now the Niners aren't in the playoffs. I think they'll get into them, obviously, but they're not. They're not. And by the way, if the season ended, they're not going to end the season. They're going to keep playing it. They're going to play, I bet you, like 60, 70% of the games minimum from here till the end of the regular season. Here, I say, and Geno Smith has had some moments against these Niners. I think that the Niners are going to survive this one. I'm going to try to pull the same feat I did last week with the Lions winning but not covering here and finding that middle. I think that the Niners get this one, and a good one, 27-26. How say you, Hench?
Well, I thought that the Niners would cover last week against the Bucks. And obviously they would have if Jake Moody doesn't miss 3 field goals. Like, hey, welcome back, buddy. Debo's going to assault you on the sideline. Like, maybe you're not
made of that, by the way. Micah Parsons. What about the player punched the other player?
So I really thought that McCaffrey coming back, that the Niners would be themselves, and they weren't quite themselves against the Bucks. But I think they get right against the Seahawks team this week. I think the Niners put up 30, win this game by 10, 30-20. McCaffrey changes so many things in the passing game. And I think we're going to see the real Niners for the first time this season when they whip the Seahawks this weekend.
Eddie Spaghetti.
So for this game, this will be the first one I'm going to pick where I have the Niners winning, but I have the Seahawks covering. Why? I just feel like I kind of talked this a lot last week where the Niners are not the same exact team. Maybe Hench is right here. Maybe this week is the week where they're going to explode and look like the team that we're used to. I think also the last 2 wins for the Niners have been, 1 score or less. They've had 5 1-score games this year already. So I do feel like that 6.5, 6 number, wherever you get it at, it'll keep it close. It is good they're home this game. So that's why I said it will help them in this victory. The Seahawks, there is a talent disparity there. But it doesn't matter because I think that in division games are just always different. Throw the scorebooks out. I think they'll keep it within a touchdown, but the Niners will come away victorious.